What's going on, everybody? Baby Sloth here, back at it again, bringing you a brand new video. And welcome to my review on Castillo. Now, another player that nobody is talking about, but an interesting player nonetheless. Now, I recently did a review on a player called Sloth, I believe. Was absolutely garbage, one of the worst players ever used on the game. But this time this player looks relatively decent, and it's another player that I'm hoping that when actually use him, he turns out to be relatively decent rather than an absolute fraud. So his standout stats being his 96 strength, his 97 heading accuracy, followed by his 90 finishing and 89 shot power. So hopefully in game this card is actually going to be relatively decent. Obviously the main drawbacks with this card are the fact that he's got no legs whatsoever and his pace is around in the 70s. So I'm not really looking for anything spectacular from him on the, running past defenders point, but in terms of scoring goals, I think it's going to be competent. So let's get into the clips and find out how we got on. Overall, I can safely say this card gave me
satisfaction.
The card was actually pretty decent in game. Now, he played very different to the style of player that I like to use on this game. I generally like to use quick players on this game, but because he was so slow, it actually had some benefits, and I'm going to get onto them in a minute. First off though, I'm going to rattle off his actual cons, which were his speed, obviously. Overall, having that low speed is never a good thing on FIFA, but it does come with some slight benefits that I'll get onto in a minute. But in general, his speed did let him down, and he would usually get overtaken by defenders, and if you try and play him through one-on-one, a lot of the time it's very difficult for him even to make that run. But even if he runs onto the ball, he's usually going to get gobbled up by a strong defender running behind him. Another one of his huge drawbacks is the fact that he only has 3-star skill moves and 3-star weak foot. On any card at this stage in FIFA, it's pretty much garbage to have a player that is, only having 3-star skills and only having 3-star weak foot. But finishing on his actual right foot was decent, but I'll get onto that in a minute as well. And then his long shots in general weren't fantastic. He definitely can score them from outside the box, but don't really be relying on him scoring them that consistently. When it starts getting to, further distances like the 25 yards, he just wasn't very consistent from that range. But moving on to his actual pros, he was absolutely as strong as an oxen on the ball. The guy was a tank, and that comes with his high balance as well, I believe. The fact that he's able to hold players off really easily, even though he doesn't have that high dribbling, he felt very, very competent at holding players off, and he was really, really good at build-up play. Then moving on to his finishing was decent in the box. I have to say, it did feel like a high-rated finisher. The only thing that lets him down is when players have that low weak foot. Sometimes it obviously feels like they've got lower finishing than that because you have to finish on a certain foot, and it's not always easy to go through on your preferred side. So that is a drawback. But in general, he's finishing on his right foot, delicious. Then moving on to another one of his strengths was actually his pens. He had 98 pens, and there was a game that I played with him where I actually got 3 penalties and he scored all 3. Now, I know penalties are a bit of luck, but he did score all 3 pens, so I have to say that 98 pens, I can understand it. His pens were decent. Then his heading as well, his actual aerial play. I didn't score any goals with his head, but hoofing it up to him from goal kicks, he was always winning the ball and winning it comfortably. Some players really struggle when they say they've got good heading stats to actually win the ball in the air, but this guy was winning the ball in the air almost every time I kicked it to him, and was being able to, play a decent pass with his head. Not a suicide pass where the player's going to get his legs broken if he tries to get it, but a decent pass nonetheless. Now, moving on to his actual strongest pro, which is what I found was his hold-up play. You're going to see a lot of the clips in the background is a lot of assist work. Because he was so slow, he would almost facilitate the play of the wingers so well. Now, I played him in a 4-3-2-1 formation as the lone striker, and I played him with Lozano and Alessandrini. I brought him on as a sub, and he would usually, I'd pass the ball to him, and then Alessandrini would usually make a run in behind, or Lozano would make a run in behind, and because he was so slow, I wouldn't be able to go anywhere with him, but I'd just kind of fizz the ball to Alessandrini, fizz it back to Castillo, and then he's usually able to hold the ball up so well while they're making a run in behind and then play it to them. You're going to see in the background, he was facilitating a lot of goals and got actually a lot of assists for me, and that's probably the only reason I would recommend this card, because he was actually decent for that reason. I was still winning games when using him purely because of the fact that he was able to facilitate, hold up play, and work the ball really, really well. So in terms of recommending him, I actually would, only in very specific teams though, only if you're building a league specific to the one that he's in, and then maybe a Chilean side as well. That's the nationality that he plays for. If you're in terms of just trying to, buy a striker to improve your weekend league for the cheap, there's a lot of better options out there, but this card wasn't horrendous. Definitely not as bad as the other review that I did before on that Uth guy, but this guy was a lot better than that, and I probably would recommend him if you are building a specific team. But that's been it from me, guys. I'd like to thank you all very much for watching. If you do like these videos, please let me know in the comments down below, and if you want to see more content on my channel, please smash that subscribe button. I'd like to thank you all very much for watching, and have a great day.